Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is Discrete Manufacturing Overview for Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management. My name is Peggy, and I'll be your moderator today. We're broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you're agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout today's event, and there will be a dedicated Q&A session at the end. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Markus, Otte, Senior Fast Track Solution Architect, and Uday, Soni, Digital Technical Specialist. Markus, over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Thank you for being with us today as we continue our Tech Talk series in manufacturing with an overview of discrete manufacturing in Dynamics 365. Joining us from the product team today, we have Johan Hoffmann, who is the product manager for production and asset management in Dynamics SCM. My name is Markus Otte, and I'm a Senior Fast Track Solution Architect here at Microsoft, specialized in supply chain functionality and performance. You can see my contact info here. If you have any follow-up questions or want to connect, please feel free to reach out. Now I'll pass it over to my colleague Uday to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Uday Soni. I'm a digital technical specialist in US SMC West, and I focus on supply chain management within our product Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain Management. Very excited to be here today as this is my first Tech Talk and co-presenting alongside Markus and Johan.
This Tech Talk continues a series on production. We have 9 parts planned for the initial series, and we will do one per month. We will continue today with the overview of the possibilities for discrete manufacturing, then get an overview into the remaining modes of production and round up the series with deep dives into specific features in the production module. If you have other questions for the series to include in the series, please let us know in the chat or in the survey at the end of the session. That brings us to the riddle of the day. Of course, we have our riddle, which is why does the Norwegian Navy barcode all of their ships? Please put your answer in the chat and we will reveal the answer at the end of the session. Okay, so now what we are going to cover today. We will start by reviewing the discrete manufacturing basic principles and what does it mean for Dynamics 365. We will walk through the setup of a BOM and a route for our Purple Pillow company. Then I will pass it over to Uday to walk us through the scenario during a demo. I take it back and we will cover the production flow for discrete manufacturing. And then we will go back to Uday, who will show us some aspects of the process flow for discrete manufacturing in the system. We will wrap it up with some additional resources and then we will have more time for Q&A at the end. If you have a question during our presentation, please do not hold them back until Q&A. We have our colleague Johan, who is eager to answer questions even during the presentation. Let's dive in and talk about discrete manufacturing in Dynamics SCM and some of the basic principles. There are several aspects that define discrete manufacturing, so let's have a look at them. Order-based production means it is defined by the product that must be manufactured in a specific configuration and quantity and must be available by a specific delivery date. Usually a production order has only one product output, means that no co- or byproducts are produced. Frequent product changes means that not every product order is produced in the same way. For instance, because the product evolves over time, a material has changed or a different resource has to be used. Varying sequence of work centers means that the routing can be simple sequence, but for more complex scenarios, it is more common to take advantage of a network of operation. Sub-assemblies often put into interim storage to shorten the delivery time once the order arrives. Status processing means updating the status of the production order and reporting the consumption. Low volume with high complexity or high volume with low complexity of products are the extremes we usually see in discrete manufacturing. Now that we have understood what discrete manufacturing is, let's have a look at the production strategies and the industries that we see in discrete manufacturing. Fashion companies, make-to-stock companies are those that stock products on their shelves. These are basically fast-moving items that have thresholds based on min-max or historical forecasting. Mostly all customer packaged good companies use this method. A good example is a clothing manufacturer that always has apparel in stock. Many furniture companies use the push method to stock. Sub-assemblies like drawers, frames, and when there is an actual customer order for a chest of a drawer, assemble the drawers and the frame with the order. A good example for configure-to-order discrete manufacturing Dell is when a customer buys a Dell laptop, they specify the screen size, the memory, the storage, processor, color, and Dell uses that information to provide the estimate delivery date, which includes the assembly of the laptop and the delivery time. Make to order is commonly used for machinery, for instance, waving or spinning machines, where the possible options for a customer are too large and too complex to be predefined to full extent. A good example for engineer to order are building construction and bespoke machineries. These are only examples for the industry. In reality, a single customer will incorporate multiple strategies into their production processes. Whether it is for different items they offer or different components in the same item. Looking into what core components we have in this for discrete manufacturing in Dynamics SCM. Bill of material, for instance, aka BOM. They specify the required materials for a specific product. The BOM is one foundation for calculating the estimated cost for a product. It is also used to plan the demand of components and materials depending on availability in the supply chain to calculate possible availability of the product. The BOM is used in production to plan and execute the material flow to capture the consumption and the progress for a production order. Operations are the activities that are required in the production flow. The route is a combination of operations in a certain order to produce the product and link the resources, for instance, machine, human resources, vendors, or tools. The route, together with the BOM, is the foundation for calculating the estimated cost for a product. It is also used to plan the demand for resources and, depending on availability in the supply chain, to calculate possible availability for the product. The route is used in production to plan and execute the production workflow and to capture the consumption and the progress in the production order. Resources are linked and allocated via routes to the operations that are required in the production flow. The resources has availability defined via a calendar for scheduling and, depending on availability of the resources, to calculate the possible availability of a product. It has cost defined via different cost categories for calculating the resource consumption value, with that also calculating the estimated cost for the product. The resource is usually a limiting factor in production for planning and scheduling to determine the order of production orders in the production flow. Capacity planning has a lot of aspects. Long-term capacity planning in the process of determining how many resources are required for demand, if you use infinite planning, to be able to plan for the resource availability in the future. Mid-term capacity planning is the process of determining with a given resources, can the demand be delivered using finite capacity. Short-term capacity planning is usually executed in correlation with scheduling. Scheduling is the process of determining the order of a production orders and resource allocation considering backlog production orders, material and capacity availability. In production, this is a continuous process controlled by scheduling method. For instance, scheduling forward or backward from a given date to optimize the use of resources and optimize the use of materials. We have an exciting production scheduling tech talk planned in this series, so within this tech talk we will not go into much detail. Costing has also multiple aspects. Estimate a production order to pre-calculate the planned cost for a production order happens with a status update automatically. Enter production order to post-calculate the realized cost of a production order happens with a status update automatically. For this topic, we also have two great tech talks available already that are linked in the additional resources section of this presentation. In today's example, we are working with the Purple Pillar company, a bedding manufacturer that works with dynamics, and the pillow assembly site, a discrete manufacturing operation that allows make-to-stock strategy and procedures. They produce pillows. In the process, they consume components such as fabric, thread, and foam throughout the operations, such as cutting, sewing, and stuffing. For the rest of the presentation, we will walk through the dynamic setup and the process to support the Purple Pillar's discrete manufacturing process, starting with the bill of materials, aka BOM, which defines the components that are required in order to produce a product. BOMs are used for different purposes during the product lifecycle in a discrete manufacturing. For instance, a sketching or draft BOM gives the draft estimate of the required materials in an early design phase and helps you to rough estimate the cost and the estimated product attributes. Engineering BOM typically used when you design products that are based on existing product portfolios. Engineering BOMs are structured to simplify the design process and group complex products into engineering modules. More simple products, it might be possible to use engineering BOMs for the actual production process. Planning BOM used to do planning for material requirements. The demand of components is calculated based on the demands of the finished products, like costing BOMs, planning BOMs might represent a specific mix of a material that is used in a period. Production BOM is the actual BOM that is used for a specific production. A production BOM must take into account the actual resources that are used to produce the product. Costing BOM is used to calculate the estimated cost of a product. For example, you can use a costing BOM when standard cost is used for an estimated planned cost of a given product is calculated. Costing BOMs can refer to a specific mix of materials and resources that are expected to be used. Therefore, you can use the costing BOM to create a representative estimated cost for a period and help avoid variances over time. Now, for our pillow production, we will use a simple production BOM. The BOM consists of a header and a list of components that is used to produce the pillows. As I mentioned, are fabric, foam, and thread, with the quantity required per series, the unit, and the warehouse where the items will be picked from. In discrete manufacturing, we often see the use of more complex BOMs, so-called multi-level BOMs. If this is required by the business you are working with, you start with a simple BOM for calculation purposes, for instance, and then build a more complex second bill of material, where components have their own bill of materials, so the BOM for the pillow on the right side becomes multi-level. In production, each product with a bill of material becomes a production order, so for the sample on the right, 4 production orders are created. Assuming you have a complex multi-level BOM defined in your master data, and you want to keep it simple in the production area, for this purpose you can use the BOM line type phantom. This means that during the planning and production, the phantom is replaced by the component items are listed as BOM lines in that BOM. So in the structure for planning and production, phantoms disappear. As a result, you get a simple level BOM in planning and a single production order. In discrete manufacturing, we often see use of more complex bill of materials, so-called multi-level BOMs. A BOM consists of a header, as you also will see later in the demo, that is approved already, so it can be used. The list of components that are used in this pillow bill of material are listed in the line section with the quantity required per series, unit, and the warehouse where the items will be picked from. In the line details of the BOM line, we offer the option to choose the line type phantom for this sample, which is chosen here. Now that we have created multiple BOMs, they need to be linked to the products and components. This is done via the concept of BOM versions, which will be also described in more detail in the demo later. This brings us to the next major component in discrete manufacturing, routes and operations, which defines the process for producing a product or a product variant. Before we start with this, we need to explain more basic concepts, so let's start with working time templates. Within Pillow production, we decided to work Monday to Friday from 9 to 5. This means we keep Saturday and Sunday closed. In discrete manufacturing, we often see the use of much more complex shift models, like 1, 2, 3 shift models that can be created here. The next level is the calendar. The working times of an operation resource are determined by the calendar that is assigned to the resource group that operation resource is part of, or the resource specifically. Within Pillow, as I mentioned already, we decided to work Monday to Friday from 9 to 5. So we use the general calendar created in the working time template, and we keep Sunday and Saturday closed. The next level are the resources and groups. The resource groups defines the site, production unit, and warehouse context for operation resources that are assigned to the group. The resource has availability defined via a calendar for scheduling, depending on availability of the resource to calculate possible availability of a product. It has cost defined via different cost categories for calculating the resource consumption value, and with that also calculating the estimated cost for the product. Within Pillow production, we decided to define 3 resource groups for cutting, sewing, and stuffing, and have 2 resources in each group. In discrete manufacturing, the manufacturing possibilities determine what resources you have available for planning and production. Also, the requirements such as planning against finite capacity, defining a bottleneck resource for planning are configured here. For our Pillow production, we did not have this requirement. One final step before we reach the roots are operations. An operation identifies the name of the step in a route, such as cutting. The same operation can occur in multiple routes and can have different operation numbers. However, within a single route, it can only be configured with the same details. This is the constraint that drove the decision to create multiple cutting operations in the sample here for the Pillow production, to be able to use the operation multiple times in a single route, for instance, on a different resource or with different runtimes. Now everything that we have configured comes together in a simple production route, having 3 operations as mentioned earlier, and a simple bill of material that can be linked to the operations. As a result, you get a single production order for the Pillow using a route and a BOM. One more detail is important to understand. To make a route in Dynamics as reusable as possible, the details for an operation such as setup time, runtime, process quantity, and resource requirements is linked to an operation via a combination of item code all in this sample, but could be different for individual products. Route code all in this sample, but could be different for individual routes. Site 10 in our case is the Pillow assembly site. This allows us to have different routes in different sites. Now that the route with all the details have been created, as you can see in the visualization here, the setup time is different for the specific configuration here. And with that, I'll pass it back to Uday to go over the example scenario and demonstration. Uday, over to you.
Thank you, Markus. Before I jump into the environment, I want to briefly describe what I will show. I will first start by showing you a workspace called Product Readiness Workspace. Then we will look at Bill of Materials, followed by Routes and Resources. Now I'm going to jump into the software. I've logged into Purple Pillow Company's Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain Management environment. On my dashboard, you can see various workspaces like outbound work monitoring, master planning, engineering change management. But the one that I want to briefly discuss is about product readiness for discrete manufacturing. This workspace is something you get out of the box, and it helps you analyze bill of materials, release products, routes that are core to discrete manufacturing. Just by clicking on this slide, I can see all of my release products. If you're using engineering change management, you can see the change request created right here. This tells me that there is one item that has been released, but has an inactive BOM version. You can drill into it, find the item ID and the BOM and investigate why the BOM version is inactive. Here it tells me that there is one item that is released, but has an inactive route version. Here you also see a list view where you can see all of the items that have inactive BOM versions and route versions. At the bottom, you can see the links that pertain to discrete manufacturing, like release products, bills of materials, routes, operations, route groups, resources, and more. Now let's get into bill of materials. To get there, I go into my release products, go into my example item PL008, which is the 12-inch square Very Perry 24 pillow that the Purple Pillow Company manufactures. I go into the engineer tab up top, and you see the BOM section. In BOM versions, you can see both the active and inactive versions of bill of materials that you have created for the pillow. In active BOM versions, you can see the active bill of material versions that you've created for the pillow. In Designer is used when you have a complex bill of materials. Designer lets you visualize multiple level BOMs very easily. Here is the item PL008. And in the item data section, you can see the item number. You can see the planned order type for the item is set to production, and the production type is set to bill of material. If I go and expand the node, you can see the three components that are used to make the raw material. The first one is the fabric, second one is the 12-inch foam, and the third one is the thread. If I click on the item, I see the BOM line details, and you can see the quantity required to make one pillow. You can see that the production type for this item is set to none. What that means is that this item is purchased and it is purchased from this vendor. You can see similar information for other items as well. Now let's take a look at BOM versions. So there are two versions for this bill of material. Version 1, which is active from 1st of January 2023 to 31st May 2023. The status is active and it is approved. The second version V2 is set to take effect from 1st of June 2023, and it is not active and not approved. There is also a bill of materials maintenance form where you can maintain and build new bill of materials. In the header section, you see information about the BOM ID, the site that this BOM exists for, and who it is approved by, and if it is approved. You can also see BOM versions in this section. In the line section, you will see the components that go into making the pillow. The three components here are the fabric, the foam, the thread. In the line details, you can see line specific information. You can see setup if the fabric is subcontracted for outside processing and who the vendor is. If the line type for the fabric is an item, vendor, or PEG supply. You can also associate the item with an operation number that is supposed to be consumed on a specific operation within the route. In the setup tab, you see information about the quantity needed to produce one pillow. You can also see if the consumption is variable or constant, and if there are any scrap factors associated with this component, you can add those right here as well. If the formula type is set to step, you can set up your step consumption sequence in the step consumption tab. Now let's go look at the route. To get to the route and navigate to the release product page, go into the Engineer tab, and in the View section, click on Route. Here you see the route versions. See if it is approved, if it is active. I have one version that is active and approved, and the other version is not active and not approved. You can have versions for routes for different sites if the route has to take effect within a specific date range or from a specific quantity. In this section, you can see the different operations. The 3 operations to manufacture the pillow are cutting, sewing, and stuffing. The runtimes associated with the operations. So a runtime of 60 minutes for cutting, which processes a quantity of 20. There's runtimes for sewing and stuffing, and process quantities for sewing and stuffing as well. You can also see specific information around the operation, where the operation is cutting and the route group that it is associated with. In setup, you can see, what is the costing resource for the operation, what are the cost categories associated with it around setup time category and runtime category. In the time stack, you can set up queue time for the item, what is the setup time, what is the runtime, and the process quantity. In resource requirements, you can specify a specific resource for the operation. And here you see CT101, the cutting machine, is the resource required for cutting. Resource requirement types can be either a resource, it can be a specific resource type, a resource group, a capability, or scale, specific courses, certificates, or title. Now let's go look at resources. A resource can be a machine, a vendor, a human resource, a tool, a location. In our example, CT101 is a machine, and in the operations section, you can set up route groups, scrap percentage, cost categories. You can set up default queue times, setup times, run times, and also capacity and efficiency percentages. You can associate this machine with a working calendar, which helps in scheduling and capacity planning purposes. You can add desired capabilities for the resource in the capability section. In resource group, you can associate it with resource groups, and you can add default ledger accounts for manufacturing cost accounting purposes. So this is all I had to demo from a bill of material, routes, and resource standpoint. I will pass it to Markus, who will walk you through the production process.
Thank you, Uday. In the next section, we will discuss and demo the production order flow for discrete manufacturing. The first question to discuss is the different production strategies used in discrete manufacturing. What coverage model or coverage code might be used and how the production orders are actually created. For a make-to-stock scenario, as there is usually not an immediate demand before the product is produced, the most commonly min-max scenario is used to build the stock. Or if the demand comes from demand planning, and this is small segmented, the period method becomes useful to group the demand and have a single production order per period. Usually master planning helps here to create planned orders that are firmed and where the production orders are then created. For assemble or configure to order scenario, as there is usually an immediate order demand for assembly or configuration at least, the most commonly requirement is used to build the product based on the order. Or if the demand is small segmented, multiple same configurations are ordered in the same period, the period method becomes useful to group the demand and have a single production order per period. Also here, usually master planning helps to create the planned production orders that are firmed and production orders are created. For a make-to-stock or for a make or engineer to order scenario, as there is an immediate order demand, the requirement is used to build the product based on the order. Usually also marking and references are used to reference the sales order with a production order. Master planning or the function in the sales order to create a production order supports this process the best. Production orders can also be created manually, and when a higher level production order is created and estimated with the BOM line type packed supply, a referenced production order is automatically created. Now let's discuss how a production order progresses in the production area for discrete manufacturing. In the first step, the production order is created by defining the product, bill of material and road, so the master data is copied over to production order. Also, delivery date, time, and the quantity are required to process the order towards the next step. They are either determined by master planning and the demand, or taken from the sales order, or in case a production order is created manually, just entered. Afterwards, the bill of material and the route is copied to the production order. So the bill of material and route can be changed for this specific production order. Next, the production order is estimated. This means the planned consumption is calculated for items, resources, surcharges, etc. As a result, you can review the pre-calculated results and the cost breakdown. In case you decide to change the bill of material and route afterwards, it is recommended to re-estimate the order. In the resources section, we have two linked specific tech talks for the costing series with more details on that topic. Next, the production order is scheduled. This means that the planned consumption is scheduled over timeline. Scheduling offers overwhelming options, so we decided to have a specific tech talks for the scheduling in this series. Just to name a few of the options here, scheduling against finite or infinite capacity for resources and items. So if you plan with finite capacity, if a resource or an item is not available, the production order gets delayed. Scheduling on operations, which is a higher level, or jobs, which reflects an operation breakdown into setup time, process time, etc. Scheduling forward, for instance, from today, or backwards, for instance, from the delivery date. As a result, you can review the calculated capacity load or the Gantt chart. The next step in the production process flow is the release. With a release, you can start to execute shop floor activities and warehouse processes to actually prepare the production flow. You can also print and prepare the documents in case there are still printout used. The next step in the production, which doesn't actually represent status on the production order, is the prepare phase. Hence, I used a different color coding here. In the prepare phase, usually you prepare the production personnel for the production order that needs to be executed. You pick from warehouse processes to provide the material to the production area. As the next step in terms of status on the production order, starting the production order is the next step. Time and material consumption can be reported now, and you can also view the progress as the reporting continues. The next phase is that you report the progress by posting picking lists. You can also use the production floor execution application to report different consumptions on the production order, and also regarding the operations, the root card journal is useful to report the consumption of operations on the production order. The next step in the production flow is potentially a report as finished. This is the production receipt that is then posted physically. So the item becomes available in the stock and you can physically move the items, for instance, to do quality assurance, or if no final quality assurance is required, then already deliver the product. The next phase is the quality assurance, where you can process the quality orders. It's a little bit out of the scope of the core production module, but still supports the overall process. The next phase or step would be to move the item physically to the inventory or actually deliver to the customer. The next status on the production order is actually the status end. So if you are ending a production order, that means that you financially close the production order, so you cannot report any changes or additional costs anymore on that production order. If you look to a company from a general perspective, then the next phase would be the period closure, like inventory closing, where you are not able to post inventory consumptions anymore to that closed period. And likewise for the financial period closing, where you're not able to post any financial transactions anymore. As you just saw, I discussed every possible status available in production order processing. But you don't have to go through all of the status. You as a company can decide to utilize the status that make the most sense to you, and the other steps are just silently executed in the background if you reach the next step. In our experience, the 4 status that we see customers use most are schedule, release, start, and end. The other activities like reporting material consumed, reporting activities against jobs, and operations is done by shop floor workers using the production floor execution app, which has a dedicated TechTalk in this series. With that, I'll pass it back to Uday to go over an example scenario and demonstration. Uday, over to you.
Thank you, Markus. Now that we've seen the setup of bill of materials, routes, resources for manufacturing a pillow, let's go and manufacture some pillows. First, I will show you what production order entry entails, then go over the production order form overview, process a production order, which will result in a pillow being added to inventory, and follow it up with journals that are available and look at some of the costing capabilities. Now I'm going to go jump into the software. I'm in the all production order screen in the production order module. And to create a new production order, I can hit the production order button. I can enter the item that I need to create the production order for. In this case, I'm going to create the pillow, enter the item ID, and based on my item defaults, I can see the site and the warehouse pre-populated. You can change the quantity. I'm just going to create 1 pillow. You can also see information about the bill of materials routes that are defaulted. If there are any changes that you need to make in the ledger and reservation setup, you can do that as well. I'm going to go ahead and create this production order. And as you can see, production order 297 was created. You can drill into the production order, and in the general section, you can see information about the production order number. You can see the item that is being produced, the quantity that is being produced, and also you can see the status of the production order. In the setup section, you can see the bill of material and drill into it, and also the route and drill into it itself. In the reference section, if this production order was triggered from a sales order or triggered from a master plan, you will see those references. But in this case, since I manually created, you see the production order marked as the reference. You have these tabs up top. In the schedule tab, you can schedule operations, schedule jobs, and view the Gantt chart. But I'm not going to be discussing in depth anything about scheduling today because we have a TechTalk scheduled in July, which will go in deep about scheduling in the production process. You can go ahead and register for that TechTalk. Similarly, the warehouse tab is where you see information about the warehouse activities, but there is a TechTalk schedule for warehouse management, which will talk in deep about warehouse management in production process. Now I'm going to navigate to the production order tab. And in the order details section, you can see the bill of material. So here is the bill of material. Here are the three raw materials: the fabric, the foam, the thread, the quantities required to produce one pillow. You can edit the raw materials, you can add a new raw material, or you can delete raw materials. Now I'll go back and show the route card as well. So here is the route and the three operations: cutting, sewing, and stuffing, and the runtime around each of these operations. You can also go ahead and view the applicable resources for each operation. So for cutting, we have the cutting machine as our applicable resources. Similarly, you can view applicable resources for sewing and stuffing as well. In the inventory section, you can see information about the finished good, the pillow itself. Under transactions, you can see the transactions that will occur as we process a production order. Under postings, you can see the physical and financial postings once the production order is completed. If you want to see on-hand information about the finished product, in this case a pillow, you can see that on-hand information right here. The process section has the steps that are necessary to process the production order. The first step is estimating. Estimating the production order allows you to calculate costs for materials and resource consumption. It also creates a purchase order for any pegged supply items or any subcontracting services that might need to be performed. The next step is release. Releasing the production order basically authorizes the item for production. It also allows you to print pick tickets and route cards. And if you use the warehouse management module, releasing the production order creates work for the warehouse workers to go pick the raw materials and bring it to the production floor. The next step is start. Starting the production order allows you to report material and resource consumption. I'm going to start this production order. In the general section, you will see that I have some settings turned on. In this case, I have the post route card now turned to yes. What this says is the route will be posted when we start the operation, and all of the resources will be consumed based on the route setup. The post picking list now is turned off. I don't want to post a picking list right now. I want to go ahead and see the picking list and make some consumption changes around raw materials. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now I can go into the View tab and view the journals around picking list. So if I go into the journals, go into picking list, there's picking list journal 428 that is created. And drilling into the journal, you can see the raw materials, fabric, the foam, and the thread, and the quantities that were consumed. If you want to make any changes during the cutting operation, we consume more fabric, you can change the quantity, and now you can go ahead and post this picking list. Similarly, I can view the route journal as well. You can see all of the operations like cutting, sewing, and stuffing, and the hours that we consume that have been posted. Since this is posted, you cannot make any changes. You would have to create a new route card journal if you want to make any changes. Now we assume that the material consumption has been reported, all of the operations have been performed, and we finally have a manufactured pillow. It is time to report production as finished and move the pillow into inventory. I'm going to go ahead and hit report as finished and hit OK. And what we did was we just reported the pillow into inventory. As the production order is completed and the pillow is in inventory, you can go into the View tab and see the report as finished journal. In this journal, you can see that the production for a quantity of 1 pillow is completed and it is reported as finished. Now, the next thing you can do with the production order is end the production order. Ending the production order will go ahead and post the actuals. If you don't have to make any changes to material and resource consumption, you are okay to go ahead and end the production order. I'm going to go ahead and end the production order. Ending the production order allows you to do some cost analysis. You can go into the Manage Cost tab and see cost comparisons. You see the unit cost comparison against the total cost comparison because our item is set to use standard cost. We can see that our estimated cost for materials was $36.4, but when we reported consumption, we consumed extra material and we consumed material for $44.3. You can also see estimates for direct manufacturing and what manufacturing was actually consumed. You can see information about inventory transactions. You can see all of our raw materials are taken out from inventory and our finished product pillow was added into inventory. You can also see information for variance transactions, where you can see if I hit details, you will see details around all of our items and processes. In this case, I want to highlight the item that we consume more, the fabric. We were supposed to consume 0.75 yards, but we consumed 1 yard. So there is a difference in cost of 1 yard versus 0.75 yards. That is, a variance of $8.58. So what I showed you is how you create a production order manually, how you can process the production order, view the journals, report the production order as finished, move the finished product into inventory, and do some cost and variance analysis. This is all I had from my side. Now I'm going to pass it over to Markus.
Thank you, Uday. As we had mentioned, the discrete manufacturing process does not execute in a vacuum, and in Dynamics 365 SCM production is highly interconnected with many other modules. Through these sessions, we only explicitly reviewed the production setup and flow, though keen-eyed observers would have noted that data from other modules have been displayed and is pulled as well during this presentation. Be sure to follow the rest of our series to get more insights into these other connections. That brings us to the resources and recommendations section. If you would like to learn more about production in Dynamics, but don't want to wait until the rest of the TechTalk is published, here are numerous resources available to aid you in this effort. These links will be made available in the chat as well as in the recording once published. We have several related TechTalks available on such topics such as manufacturing accounting and production variance analysis, as well as other related TechTalks. On the Dynamics Learn, you can find documentation that provides an overview on the entire production process, as well as guided training paths to help you to to help you to build the knowledge in this area. Once you feel familiar with the material, go ahead take the SCM functional certification exam. Then proudly display your hard-learned badge on the LinkedIn profile. Just to note, the MB335 exam will be replacing the MB320 exam soon, only manufacturing exam. We also have great community surrounding the Dynamics 365 ecosystem. Join our Yammer channels and get direct interaction with the engineers from product group and access to preview program. Our community site is a great way to connect with other users that have been in your situation and would be able to provide a similar perspective regarding system usage. If there is a feature or function that you feel would benefit the platform, visit our ideas portal to suggest it or to be added to the application or added to the roadmap. Be sure you vote on ideas of others and also ask others to vote for your ideas. And finally, just a reminder, the series that continues, you can see here the topics that we're currently planning to deep dive in the coming month. Please let us know in the feedback survey if there are other topics you think we should cover. That brings us back to the riddle of the day. Why does the Norwegian Navy barcode all of their ships? I don't know. Uday, do you know?
Yes, because they're Scandinavian.
Ha 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 ha. At this time, we will address a few questions that were raised during the presentation. Johan, are there any questions from the chat that you would like to discuss?
Yeah, there is one question. What is planned for those who already have MB320? Is there automatic conversion to MB335? Can you answer that, Markus or Uday?
I don't believe there is an automatic conversion of that, but the certification as such is valid for a certain period. So if it comes to the renewal, then you would simply take the new exam, and before that the old exam is still valid with the period given.
Okay, got it. Yeah, then there were a couple of questions around planning optimization versus classical planning. There's no plans to deprecate the classical planning master planning engine. So you have both options, planning optimization and the classical planning.
And also there is, I believe, a TechTalk plan to reiterate on the adoption of planning optimization.
Yes. Then there is also a question, can you put all the link into the chat so we can have direct access? So the links that you provided in your slide deck.
Yes, sure, we can do this. Not sure, Uday, if you have the possibility to add them to the chat. Because I'm currently presenting, I don't want to move the slides and start with copy pasting. Hope that makes sense to everybody. But once we publish the recording, then in the PDF, those links are deep links, so you can get to the content once we publish the recording as a last resort. Okay, I just see that we are at the top of the hour, so I'm handing it back to Peggy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Markus. That was a fantastic presentation. Congratulations to Kurt and Alan for guessing the answer to the riddle. If the attendees could have a look in the live event Q&A, I've posted a link to a short survey. We would love your feedback on today's session and hear what you'd like to see in future events. So thank you very much for your participation. As a reminder, the recording and the deck will be available on the TechTalks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. So a big thank you to our presenters and our audience. Have a great day or evening wherever you are.